Yo boys, welcome back to a 2026 best settings in Rust. Straight to it boys, just in game here, you want to go up to your options, top right, and we'll go down this whole list here. Starting off with gameplay though, this won't crazily affect your FPS, but this definitely will actually affect the way that your character kind of moves in game, i.e. Head bob, you want that off because it just literally bobs your head whenever you run. It is so annoying, especially if you want to try to get good at recoil control in this game. And then the field of view, you want this at 90, because without this being at 90, boys, you literally won't be able to see anything around you. So I recommend just having it at 90. Hit mark is more personal preference. There obviously is an audio hit marker in this game. I personally have it off because I don't really like the visual cue, but it's personal preference. Game tips, I have off. Hurt punch, have this off because when you get hit or take damage, your camera just shakes, which is bare annoying. Bad gifting, anyone. I would have all of these building stuff on because this literally just allows you to see build priv of monuments, allows you to see your teammates building, allows you to see like all of that type of stuff. So I recommend having that all on. Quick craft delay, this one's actually the most important out of this whole thing. I recommend either having this around 0.0 or 0.2. This will be quick craft, so in your inventory, when you're trying to craft bandages, tool cupboards, whatever, the delay to click it will be way quicker. So I recommend having that between 0 and 0.2. Nudity, this actually does affect your FPS very slightly. Just keep it as underwear. And then all of these options here are more if you're a streamer. So hide signs, I have on because obviously I record videos. Show blood, I actually have this off because it will allow you to see a little bit easier because your screen will go white rather than red. Sensor recordings, yet again, if you're like a streamer and you want that on, you can have it on. Same with Steam nicknames, internet audio streams, all these type of things, and especially streamer mode. So yeah, if you are a streamer and stuff, have that on. If not, not too deep. Here boys, physics though, max Gibbs have at 0. Completely turn this off because if you increase it, whenever you get raided, like through door path as an example, or you are raiding through door path, there'll be a bunch of particles on screen. Not particles, but the door like breaking down. So have this all the way at 0. Upgrade effects, I have this on. You can have it off because I actually do not know if having it on or off will affect your FPS, but I assume because of the animation that it probably does have a little bit of hit on FPS. So if you do want the best FPS, turn this as off, but I like having it on just because I think it looks kind of cool. And then RGB lighting, if you like doing lights in your base and stuff, have that on, and then you can mess around with the brightness here. Going over to audio boys, master volume, game sounds volume, and UI sounds volume. I increase all of these. Your UI sounds, not only does it with your interface sound effects, but this will also affect the headshot sound effect. So if you want loud headshots, increase this to maximum, and you'll definitely notice a difference. Game sounds and master volume, I have these always just max, so that way you can hear the best around you. Music and menu music, I have off. Voices, obviously turn this on to your personal preference. Just try not to do it too high, because if you're in a gunfight and someone starts screaming, you won't be able to hear anything around you. Instruments and things and props and all this stuff I have all off. The events volume you can have on, but this will literally only be, this isn't for like the oil rigs respawning or cargo coming out. This is literally just for like the Halloween events and stuff, so don't worry too much about that. And then this, just set it to what your actual headset can run. Now going over to screen, this stuff is a lot more important. Your resolution, boys, you probably won't see 2560 by 1440. That's because I have a 1440p monitor. It'll probably be 1920 by 1080. But set that to whatever your resolution of your monitor is. Now, if you don't know how to do that, just go on your desktop, right click it, go in the video control panel, and then it will show your native resolution for you. Screen mode, have this as full screen. Max frame rate, I uncap my frame rate. There's a tech YouTuber called Optimum, and basically he did a test on uncapped frame rate in video games compared to capped frame rate in video games, and you will get better FPS if you uncap it. It is quite a common misbelief that if you cap it, you get better FPS, but that's actually not necessarily true. But yet again though, boys, if you have a 120Hz monitor, 140Hz monitor, 200Hz, whatever Hertz monitor you have, I would cap it around that monitor. So I have a 280Hz monitor. I have an extremely good PC. Not all the time I get 280, but a lot of the time I get close to that. So I just have mine as uncapped. But if you're a person who only has 140 Hertz monitor, but you can get upwards of 200 FPS in game, I'd probably try to cap it around your hertz of your around your refresh rate of your monitor. Because if you don't cap it at the refresh rate of your monitor, you'll start to get ghosting, which ghosting is if a player runs across your screen, they will appear to still be there, like a trail behind their character, but they're not actually there, so it could mess up your aim. So I would either recommend either uncapping it or capping it around your monitor refresh rate. VSync have this off. Limit FPS in menu and limit FPS in background. These two things are actually pretty good to have on, because it just takes a bit of load off your computer. I don't have them on personally just because my computer is very good, and because I have a really high refresh rate monitor, I like having high FPS in my menu, because otherwise it's capped to about 15, 16, 30 FPS or whatever, and it's not really that smooth. But yeah, if you want a little bit of load off your computer, I recommend turn these two on. Now boys, your graphics. This one is the absolute most important. If you don't want to hear me talk, you can literally just pause the video, or just slow down the video here. Look, there you go. That's all the settings. But if you do want to hear me yap a little bit about each one, then just follow it through. Render scale, boys, have this at 1. Do not lower this at all. Shader level, boys, this is super important for the detail of the ground in the environments that you'll be running through in Rust. I recommend, even on a good computer, having this at level 3. I wouldn't go above level 3 because the level of detail isn't that crazy compared to level 3, level 4, 5, 6. So I recommend capping it at level 3. Even if, boys, you have a kind of bad computer, I would try to get this around 3 because characters will stand out a lot better. But if you do genuinely have a potato of a computer, I recommend having this on at least 1. But 1 or 3. 2 to 3 won't really do anything. And then 3 to 6, literally the detail is not really that noticeable. So yeah, either 1 or 3 on this. NVIDIA DLSS, I have this as off. Same with DLAA. Pixel light count, max shadow lights, and particle raycast budget. These actually don't do anything in the game at all. There was a YouTuber that did a whole test on these a few months back, and he literally saw that these did around a 5% decrease in FPS, and they didn't do anything. Like, they literally didn't do anything in the whole game, so have these all as off. Soft particles, if you are a bit of a base builder and you like sitting in base, I recommend having these on, because it will make the campfires, furnaces, things like that look a lot nicer. But if you don't really do that and you're not really bothered and you want that little bit more frames, then have this as off like I do. Volumetric clouds, boys, you don't look at the sky in this game. You literally don't look at the sky. Have this as off. This will ruin your FPS. Have this as off. Now onto world draw distance. Draw distance won't really do all that much in terms of being able to see characters, because your characters isn't based off draw distance at all. Draw distance is seeing mountains, seeing oil rigs, seeing boats in the distance. I recommend having a sweet spot of around 1250 to 1500. So I actually have mine on 1K right now. I recommend having it around 1250 to 1500. But past about 1500, it won't really give any noticeable difference in terms of actually being able to see things in game, but it will have a decrease in FPS. So yeah, I recommend between 1000 and 1500. And if you do have an actual trash PC, you can just decrease this all the way down to 500. And then when you're out on ocean, increase it to what I have, so that way you can see oil rigs and boats a bit better. But when you're on land, just keep this as 500. But yeah, I recommend personally playing on around 1250 to 1500. Water reflections and water quality, I recommend having these two off. Grass displacement, I recommend having as on, because grass displacement literally will make it so you can actually see guns when they're chucked in grass. So when you kill a player trying to pick up his weapon, it will spread the grass out so you can actually see it. This have off. Now onto textures, boys. I recommend having texture quality as either full resolution if you have a really good computer, or half resolution if your computer's on a bit of the lower end. Do not go down to 1/8 or quarter. Your game will look like trash. So yeah, either half or full. Just experiment with it depending on your system specs. This I recommend just having as per texture. This here and parallax mapping, 1 and 0. Completely low. These don't do anything. You really won't notice much of a difference. So I recommend having those off. Now onto graphics quality. This is probably the most important out of this whole graphics section if you ask me. Shadow quality have as low. It literally doesn't do anything in Rust. It's really bad, and I can't lie, boys, it'll fry your frame. So have that as low. Decor quality, grass quality, and terrain quality, I would have all of these as completely off, because your terrain quality will go back to the shader level setting that we said earlier. So I recommend just having that as off and using the shader level that I said before. Max tree meshes is decent because it makes trees look a little less Play-Doh-y if you're in the forest a lot, but also Play-Doh-y trees can make it so you can see characters through them a little bit better. So you can either experiment with having this as off, like I do, or having it around 50. I do not recommend, though, going above 50. Tree quality, I recommend having as 100. It allows you to see players through trees a lot easier. Do not really go above 100, though, because the actual impact on the way it looks doesn't really affect it that much, and obviously it will look way better. Object quality, I recommend having as between 50 and 100. But, boys, if your FPS is getting kind of hit a little bit and you know, you got a bit of a trash PC, you can experiment with having this as off, but if you want your game looking just that little bit nicer and allow you to see players inside of bases a little bit easier, then have that as between 50 and 100. Load bias, boys. Don't have this as anything above 1. It will really mess up your game, and I also don't really recommend having it below 1, unless you do genuinely have a bad computer. You can experiment having it on 0.8 or 1. Either of those two, but do not go above 1, and I also don't recommend going above 0.8. Particle quality, have this completely off. Now onto image effects, boys. Anti-aliasing, I play with SMAA because it's the best for my computer, and it looks the best in my opinion. But if you don't really like anti-aliasing in games, I recommend turning this as off. But if you're going to use any of these three, I recommend doing SMAA. High quality bloom, off. Ambient occlusion, off. Sharpen, on. This literally doesn't do any performance hit, but will make your game and character stand out a lot better. Vignetting, turn off. Cinematics effects, obviously these won't really affect the game all that much because cinematics. Cinematic effects, I recommend having depth of field off, lens stir off, motion blur off, and god rays off. Some people can mess with motion blur. There's this streamer / YouTuber called Gather. He plays motion blur on, and he's cracked to the game. So I mean, look, if you like it, you can do it, but it's not for me personally. Overlay, blood overlay, and hurt flash, have these both of us off. It will help a lot more in PvP fights. Now, user interface, boys. Show HUD on. I use my user interface scale at 1, but you can mess around with that. FPS counter, I recommend having advanced plus ping because you can actually see your FPS, see your ping. Chat, this is all personal preference. Crosshair, you can copy my crosshair settings if you want. Pretty much the only real thing to copy here is just put crosshair on. I turn dynamic visibility and spacing off, and then I have a dot, I have a red, and I just set the dot size to 1. That's literally it. Interaction crosshair mode, if you're kind of new to the game, have it as default, and if you're not really new to the game, you know what all icons are, have it as icon only or minimal. Show use bind and things like that, this is to just see when you go to interact with like a door, it has like an E and stuff on it, and it allows you to see your belt bar, which is your hotbar. It allows you to see your keybinds. You can have it as on if you like. I have it as on just because I like the way it looks, but not really that deep. And then these two at the bottom, yeah, again, not really that deep. MISC, have your player model as on, because although it gives you a bit more visibility having it off when you're in your character model, you can't see your armor, so it's a little bit annoying. So I recommend having that as on. Obviously, compass visibility, have that on. Player name tags, have that on. Depth mark compass, all these type of things I recommend having as on. Now onto controls, boys. This is a lot of personal preference, but I will give you my controls. I play 1600 DPI. I do not use this mouse sensitivity. I will leave the link in the description below for the mouse sensitivity that I actually use and like the command that I use. I don't change my mouse sense here. I put a command in game. So I bring up the console command log here and then I do a command, but I'll leave that in the description below. I play, I think, 0.18 horizontal vert with an 0.16 ADS with 1600 DPI. So you can copy that if you want in the description, mess around with it, see how you like. So yeah, I wouldn't really worry about these much. I would just do these in the console command. These two I was off, always sprint, off, duck mode, hold, ADS, hold. Horse mount speed, if you're quite prone to accidentally hitting your keyboard and like jumping out of vehicles as you're moving by accident. You can have a little bit of a delay on here, but I don't really get that, so I just have those as 0. And then these lot at the bottom you can copy as well. Now, keybinds, boys. I'm just going to shush and scroll through these. My keybinds are a bit weird. Okay, so I wouldn't copy mine necessarily because, I mean, I have duck on space as an example. I don't use left control. I actually have it on spacebar. So, yeah, I'll scroll through them, shut up, and you can just copy me. All right, perfect. On to accessibility. This doesn't really matter too much. I would just copy what I have here. This DPV camera tilt will be for that thing that's like the underwater system. I have it as on because it makes it a little bit easier to control. Now, colors, these are literally personal preference. If you're a bit colorblind, you can go through and you can actually go here and change them if you're colorblind. But if not, these are all personal preference. I keep them just what they are in game. But if you want, you can go through and change some of them. The only one actually that I would really recommend changing is the tree color marker. I'd actually have this as orange because it allows you to see it a little bit better at nighttime. But apart from that, the rest are all pretty much personal preference. Gestures, obviously your gesture wheel is completely personal preference. This won't really help you in the game at all. Have them where you want them. Now, last one, boys, experimental. Occlusion, coloring, I would have this as on, but only if you have a good computer. Do not have it on if you have a bad one. Contact shadows, I never recommend having on. Automatic process affinity, I recommend turning this on if you have a 3D chip or higher, because basically it will allow you to use all of the processors in your CPU. I have a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, so that's the reason I have it on. gc.buffer, this completely depends on the RAM that you have in your system. I will leave in the description a number that you can copy per RAM. So if you have 8 gig, 16, 32, 64, whatever, I'll leave it in the description so that way you can just copy that number and input it here. Do not copy my number. I have 32 gigabytes at 7200 megahertz. So do not copy my number because your game will literally crash if you only have like 8 or 16 gig. So yeah, just go in the description, boys, copy that, and that's it. See you in the next one, boys. Bye.